Okay, great. So let me tell you a little bit more about the first task that you're going to do. So first is you're going to translate or you're going to convert an implementation of the priority queue data structure from Java to Python, and you'll do this one with the AI support. And then your second task will be converting an implementation of the try data structure from Java to Python, and you'll do that one without the AI support. And we'll also take a break between the two tasks because the session, it really does take the full 2 hours. So first, let me tell you a bit more about this code translation task. So the task is to produce a complete and working Python translation within 30 minutes. And by complete, I mean that all of the functionality and documentation from the Java code should be translated. And by working, I mean that the Python code should be runnable and tested for correctness. But as I mentioned earlier, there's more work to do to accomplish an absolutely perfect translation than what you can really do within 30 minutes. So really, I'm just asking you to do as much as you can in the time that you have. But there may be
Can you
trade-offs.
pause there, please? I have another question. Am I expected to have my programming environment pre-set up for this?
No, no, we're going to use a web-based programming environment, which I will mention in about 30 seconds.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Because if I
Um,
had to set up PyCharm or something like that, it
yeah,
should.
no, no, no. We've taken care of all of that for you.
Thank you.
So,
Yeah.
okay, so let me go back here. Okay, so yeah, we're asking you to do more work than what you can accomplish in the 30 minutes. So really, we're just asking to do as much as you can in the time that you have. But there may be trade-offs in how you spend your time, such as whether you choose to translate all of the functionality first and then run and test it, or if you translate a portion of it while testing it to make sure it works. And how you navigate that trade-off is completely up to you. So now there's a few other things about the task. This is, directly answering your question. You'll be using an online version of the VS Code editor in the study. It has a few minor differences from the desktop application, but in general, all of the menu commands and keystrokes are available and everything should just work. But let me know if you do have questions about it or if you encounter any difficulties. I will not be able to answer any technical questions about the code or what it's supposed to do, but I can tell you that the Java implementation is correct. When you make the translation, please try to preserve namings of things like classes and methods, but we're less concerned with how you name variables. Um, you can also use whatever resources you feel would be helpful, such as searching the web or searching Stack Overflow, or running any of the code. We've installed Java and Python in the editor, so you can run all of the code. And then I'll give you a 5-minute warning when time is almost up, so you know to start wrapping things up. And
Okay.
then last, oh, sorry.
Sounds good.
Okay. So the last thing I'll ask is just as you work on the tasks, we like it if you could think out loud and kind of vocalize what you're thinking and what you're doing because it really helps us understand when we go back to do our analysis, like what your approach was on the task and what you were thinking about um, as you were going about things. So sometimes if you're quiet, I might prompt you and ask you some questions about what you're thinking about.
Sure.
So, any other questions before we get started?
No?
All right. So let me ask you to share your screen right now, and then I will send you, or we will start the first task. Okay, so as I mentioned, the first task, you're going to translate the priority queue data structure from Java to Python with the help of an AI code translation system. So this system is able to automatically translate code from Java to Python, but it's not a perfect system, so the translated code may contain errors in it.
Got
We use the system ahead of time to create a Python translation for you, which you're going to see when you open the editor, and how you use this translation to help you complete the task is entirely up to you. So let me send you the link for the task, and I put it in the WebEx chat.
Got it. I'm launching it.
All right.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, and you need to be connected to VPN if you're not.
Now I've noticed. Yeah, let me look. I believe I am connected to the VPN. Let's see.
Okay.
You're right,
Oh.
I'm not.
It always happens, right?
Yeah. Okay, I am
Okay. Now,
connected
yeah, now it
now.
looks like you're connected.
Okay, I
Okay.
can see
There
the
it is.
editor. So there's a Java
Yep.
code.
Yep. Okay. So yeah. So let me just tell you, there's three files here. The Java is the original Java file. PriorityQueue.py is just a blank file right now. That's the file that we ask you to put your solution in. And then PriorityQueue.ai is the file that has the AI produced translation. So I will go ahead and start the timer now.
Hmm. So my first step would be to actually run. Let me just run through this code and see what it's doing. Okay, it's got a couple of methods to insert, remove, size, peak is empty, enumerate, and heapify the queue. All right. And this one has methods, insert, remove. It has all the methods. So my first instinct would be to test this and this independently to actually find out how the priority QAI pipe fares when compared to the Java code. Now my concern is how, yeah, but there is no main method here. How do I run Java? I'm not very familiar with the VS Code for Java. I normally use Eclipse. So if I have to run it, there is no main method. Yep, it wouldn't run because there is no main method. So one of the biggest hurdles you will see me encountering is I need to figure out how to run this. Looking at the code, I can see the methods. So if I don't find my means to run it, I might just try to read through the code to identify what it's done. Insert.
Yeah, and I'll just give you a reminder that, if you need to search the web or search Stack Overflow for anything, you should feel free to do that.
Yeah. Java code from VS Editor. Java extension pack. Java code control N. But I know this code won't run because you've not provided me with a main method. So you mentioned that there is an AI tool. So is this this is the code that's generated by the AI tool?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, so just to explain that a little bit more, is we took the code from priorityqueue.java and we fed it through this AI system, and this is what it produced.
Oh, I see. Okay, okay. So then now you're trying to compare if I, as a human, went and wrote this code myself, what I would produce versus what the AI system produced. Is that right?
Well, we're asking, we're asking you to translate this Java file. So, if you find this AI produced code useful, you can use it. If you
Mm-hmm.
find it not useful, you could also just translate the Java file yourself. Um,
Okay,
how you go about that is entirely up to you.
got it, got it. I'm thinking of multiple ways that I would do it as a developer. If I want to produce, if I want to check if this AI file produced, an optimal translation of the Java code, this AI tool produced now optimal representation of the Java code. As a developer, the first thing I would do is I would like to check the code, look for obvious statements that are missed out. Does not look like there are obvious statements that are missed out. The other thing I would want to do is I would want to write tests in Python and tests in Java, some unit tests that would test each of those things and then see if the tests produce consistent results. Now, where I'm getting stuck is, normally I write tests. I have a test framework that I use. So I just go and use a JUnit test framework for Java or JUnit test framework for Python. It's all normally set up in my product when for my day-to-day development. When I'm given a fresh editor with a folder containing only 3 files, starting a test from scratch is not easy. Um, as in like as it because it's been a while since I coded, it's not easy. But so I'm trying to look for a quick way by which I could write
Yeah,
tests.
I'll give you a small hint because I don't think this is giving away much. If you just write code at the bottom of the Python file, then it would execute that code. There is also kind of a special way to define a main function in Python, which if you want, you can Google that. But
Yeah,
in general, if you just want to write some quick tests, it will work at the bottom of the Python file.
yeah, I know.
So what are you thinking about right now?
Now I'm still stuck in the first phase where I'm trying to look at the code, visually read the code to see if it is optimally translated. Let me figure out how to write test in Java. Like I said, because my Python knowledge is a little outdated. Yep, so I got my main method in place. When I'm working with a priority queue, one of the things I'd want to see is, first I want to see is the size. I'll start with a 0 queue size and then I'll add elements and keep checking if my size is incrementing. I'll remove elements, I'll check the size and I'll enumerate. Okay, so how do I add, what do I call the init method from a main method? Again, a little rusty with my Python. Call for you when you instantiate. A class. We need to create a class in Python. And create an object of a class in Python. Yeah, mixing of Java code. Let's yeah, this should have worked. Oh, again, I'm mixing up Java and Python. This was my problem.
So what's going on through your head right now?
So right now I haven't even gotten the Python syntax to write a simple test in place. So what's going on in my head is how to debug this line. So
Mhm.
I've got an empty queue. I have to find an empty queue. I just want to check its size. I'm expecting to see 0 printed. I'm getting some syntactical error. I'm trying to resolve. How do I resolve the syntactical error? Maybe I just this. Ah, got it. So yeah. So the AI in translated code is at least returning the size correctly. So if I were to just say I'm skimming the surface, I'd say this is pretty. It's passed one test. Now I'm going to have to check if it's going to pass the additional test for the other methods. And this is because I know what a priority queue is. I'm just assuming. So now if I add one more, let me check. Is it empty? If it's empty, it'll say it's passed another test. So is empty equals test class dot is empty. And then I print it out. And a normal developer, Justin normally would use debugging tools in the editor to figure this out, to test this. I'm a little rusty, so that's why I do not know how to use the debug of VS Code very well. But yeah,
Yeah, and I'll just say that's okay.
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
you shouldn't actually need the debugger to complete the task.
Now what? Empty. This class is empty. Is empty cell. My empty trace back. Probably this should have worked. So print is empty. Need to add an item in here. Right. This class is empty. So I'm trying to insert a raw data type, like a numeric data type, into this queue, but looks like, again, it's my syntax thing that I do not know while in how to item, insert an item. Try inserting a string item. And I'm mixing up my Java syntax. It is not in list. Text item.
So what are you thinking about right now?
So again, I have a bug in my test, and I'm trying to get my test to work. So right now when I run my test, I'm trying to insert 100 into the queue, an item into the queue. I've just chosen to insert a string item into the queue, and it's giving me an error. 100 is not in list. So I'm trying to understand why my test is not working.
So I guess just to clarify, when you say you have a bug in your test, do you think the bug is in the code that you wrote for the test, or the bug is in?
Yes.
Okay.
I believe the bug is in what I wrote.
Okay.
Why do I think the bug is in what I wrote versus
That was my next question, yes.
yes. That's because of my level of knowledge of Python. So like I said, a little rusty in Python. I do not know because of my level of thing. I'm not sure if the bug is in the test or in the code. Now my guess. So like I said, let me just switch to the Java code. An item, an index compared to item.
Okay. And just so you know, we've got about 5 minutes left.
Oh, is that it? Okay. All right. Yeah. So I would say at this point in time, I'm stuck, not because of code, not because of the AI program, but because I do not know how to fix this. I could spend more time, but it's not something I will resolve in 5 minutes. Maybe I could try this. No. So because I have only 5 minutes, I'm just going to again wing it by doing a desk scan of the code to see if if the Python code really addresses, has translated from Java the add insert capability. And to my knowledge, it looks like it's done everything that the Java code was doing. Defined a heap, added an item to the heap, while index greater than 0, divide by 2. Is my 5 minutes up?
It's 10 more seconds.
Because basically, you can see I'm not.
I mean, it looks like you're just, going back and forth between the Java and the Python to see
Yes,
if there's equivalence.
yes, that's
So,
what I'm
okay,
doing.
so time is up. Okay, so you can close this window. And then there's the first survey to
Sure.
fill out. I will send you the link. And then here, so your participant ID is P22. And this was the AI condition with the priority queue. All right. And then I'm going to have to be right back very quickly as you fill this out. But just, please fill out the survey while I'm gone.
Yep.
Okay, I'm back. Sorry about that.
No problem. Met my expectations. Translations. Oh, I didn't pay attention to this. So there were comments in the Java code,
Hmm.
and there was comments in the Python code. So the AI actually attempted to copy the comments, to translate the comments too.
Oh,
That's
actually, one thing we forgot is, could I ask you to just like select all and copy from this file and paste it into the other file?
sure.
Because it's the other file that we're looking at for the solution.
As incomplete as it may be.
Yeah, yeah, as incomplete as it may be. Yeah,
Done.
thank you.
Okay. Okay. So the translations were useful as a priority queue empty. Let me see how well it did. I don't know if it had errors because I didn't check the syntax. I'm going to go with, let's see.
So I think the thing I might need to clarify is when we talk about the translations, we mean both the code and the comments.
I
I'm
see.
not I'm not sure if that's clear.
Okay, it's both the code. The code I can speak for, but
It's the
that's
code
not.
and the comment. Like it's sort of everything, right?
Okay,
Because the
got it.
system, we give it the comments and the code, and then it's translating both the comments and the code.
Yes,
Okay.
got it.
Oh, and actually, if you could say something a little, you said it taught you something new about Python. I would be interested to hear what that was.
Shall I put my comments in here?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
You want me to answer this honestly?
Please.
Yeah,
There are
so
no
let
right
me tell
answers.
you the background of where I come from. This exercise that I just did, I totally understand it. I come from a product team where we attempted to translate complex enterprise UI code from one language to another. We spent considerable product cycles in doing it. We tried converting, we tried to write code in Dojo and convert it to Angular. We ran a project for it. The results, we produced something, but unfortunately, the translation we did, we realized that no matter how good we do make our translations, and of course, this was not AI-based translation, it was more rule-based translations, we realized that we will never be able to keep up with the changing languages and the newer versions of the languages to make sure that our translations come out perfectly.
That's actually sounds like a pretty amazing story.
Yeah.
So I'll say two things. So one is yes, please, answer this question, given that context that, and the experience you have. But also we may want to follow up with you after this study to learn more about your
Sure.
specific
Yeah.
experience.
Yeah.
And
And yeah, I'd be happy to share my experience. Again, we tried it for UI languages. We even tried it for Java. So what you have in your example is a simple Java to Python translation. I can see very basic elements of Java there, very basic elements of Python. The moment you take it to a next gen Java version, like Java 8 or so, where you have streams and things to do all these things for you,
Mhm.
I really don't know how. I mean, I as a human cannot visualize that how many, like, yeah, if it's, I don't think it's easy, but I will answer it in the context of the rudimentary Java to Python translation that I saw in this
Mhm.
code. Okay. So I would say very helpful, very helpful, very helpful. But you saw me switch back and forth between um, the editor and the web. So I mean, as a developer, I find everything that I need on the web, so I can easily go in there and translate stuff. Yeah. Yep. So I'm having if the code's correct, the code's correctness is always important. For what situations would AI supported code translations be appropriate? Yep, I would just say slightly appropriate. Runtime performance is important here. Yep.
Oh, actually, I think you might have rated those backwards.
Was it?
Yeah. Sorry, I just caught it.
No problem.
Um,
How useful would each of these kind of
so
AI models be for?
yeah, so extremely useful is on the left,
Yeah.
and one problem per
So
100,000 lines of code
my
is
so I no I think the more kilo lines of code I have, I would find the AI model less useful.
well, this is about the error rate. So this is saying that a model that kind of makes a mistake, like one mistake per 100,000 lines of code versus a model
Oh,
that makes
okay.
a
Now
mistake on every line of code.
I see.
Okay.
So obviously, a model that makes a mistake in every line of code will never be useful to
Yeah,
me.
yeah.
Okay, okay, yeah,
Yeah,
you're
I
right.
mean, it's a cascading progression. I just saw, you had it sort
Yeah,
of reversed. So I just wanted to make sure you understood.
yeah. Thanks for pointing that out. Done with this survey.
All right, great. So we have one more task, but I promised there would be a break. So maybe a couple minutes and then we'll continue.
Sure.
Okay. I'll be right back also.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm back. I don't know if you're there, but just let me know.
I'm back.
All right, welcome back.
Thank you.
Okay, so now we're going to do the second task. So in this one, you're going to translate the try data structure from Java to Python, and you'll do this one without the AI support. So let me send you the link to this. And then if you could also share your screen. Okay, so same thing. So the Java source is in the Java file, and then please put your solution in the Python file. So I will start the timer now.
Okay. So as a developer, when I'm translating from one language to another, if I do not know my target language well enough, I resort to a web to understand syntax. Given that you already gave me a templated version for the last example, I'm going to use that as I need a template from somewhere. So rather than pull it off the web, I'm going to pull it off the last exercise you gave me. But if I didn't have this, I would just go on the web and search for it. So, yep. So I will take this, using this as a template. I would go into this, start defining my classes. So this is a try class. True arrays. Try is a true. Sure. Children.
So I guess I'm a little lost with what you're currently working on.
So what I'm trying to do is I'm just trying to copy the code, use the same classes and same syntax as defined in Java. What I started out with was I needed a Python template to work off. So I used the Python template that I pulled off because I needed some basic indentation, etc. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to strip away all the unnecessary stuff from my template. I'm going to just comment it out. How do I comment out stuff? So I will just keep this code for reference, but I need to define methods: insert, find, delete, delete, enumerate, enumerate, merge. I know I need a new class, try node. I've forgotten syntax. Insert. Try node current. If you'd asked me to do it the other way around, to Python to Java, I would have done it sooner because, like I said, I'm more familiar with Java. This is, I guess, a little more, because I don't know Python as well, I'm going a certain roundabout hopscotch way of doing stuff. Try node current, self.try node, sort. I've lost track of what I was doing because I was switching between Java and Python. Yeah, try node. Need a syntax for syntax in Python. Word. Insert word.
So what are you thinking about right now?
I'm just literally translating methods. So I do not know the equivalent of the compute if absent method in Python. So Java has a compute if absent method, but I do not know its equivalent in Python. So one of the things I'm doing is I'm looking up the web to find if there is an equivalent. My preliminary 1 second search indicated that there is no equivalent. No, normally I would spend some more time researching that. But if it's not there, I know what the compute if absent method does in Java. So I will just write an old method here I will write it out in Python. So I'm defining my own version of the Python compute if absent, which will take in, have to decide the arguments to this, of course, but L in try node. It's a method that I need to define. If it is absent, what was the method doing? It was storing it as current. Got it. Yep, so I'll just do this. Current outset and yeah. So this is how I would write the insert method. At least I have a template for the insert method. Now my insert method does need a trinode class, which I have not yet defined. I think I need to define a trinode class again, because in Java, I know you can have nested classes. Python, I do not know if we can have nested classes. So I'm going to assume that we do not have nested classes, and I'm going to just define a trinode method, which is a tree. Try.java, trinode. It is a hash map. Has a hash map. So what's the equivalent of a hash map in Python? Dictionaries. Got it. Get children is end of word, set end of word. So I am trying to preserve method names and variable names when I do the translation on my own. So I think again, I've got to a point where I've got a template in place with empty methods for the try-node class. So I will use this now. Here. Yep, so I've got this. Do I really need to write out all the methods?
Well, you have about 15 minutes left, so as much as you're able to accomplish.
Okay. So I've got my insert method, I've got my find method. So let me do this. Find. String word.
So what are you thinking about right now?
So I'm just writing pseudocode. So I'm trying to get my pseudocode in a syntax that Python kind of recognizes. It's fine. Again, it's because normally if I were a Python developer, I'm just trying to rationalize. If I were a Python developer who's very familiar with syntax, I just code this out on my own. But now I'm just, because I don't know my Python syntax well enough, I'm putting in pseudocode that will do something. And then I'll later go and later I'll go in and make sure it syntactically works. But right now it's just pseudocode. So I've got my insert method, I've got my find method, I've got my delete method. So let's see. Because I don't have a reference, I'll just this. Delete self word. I don't know what's the equivalent to remove, but delete. So what I'm thinking right now is, now I have a template of a class that I need to expand on, and I need to fill in all these comments with the true code that will do the work. But I know if I run this class as is, it will not work. So I need to start changing the code. I do have a bit of a barrier to starting this because, I mean, I know it's possible, but if I search the web and just write all this, if I had basically if I put on my developer hat and sat down to code this, I will basically go and write out all the code. Like, how would I do it? I'll have to say enumerate. Enumerate first checks if it's the end of the word, and it sorts the keys. Well, why is it doing all this? Recursive function to enumerate strings stored in the tree. Yeah. Yeah, so I'll have to write a recursive function. How do I write recursive function in Java, in Python? I know Python does support recursion. In Python.
Oh, I think I just lost screen sharing there.
Yeah. 1 second.
Okay, thanks.
Hmm. I might have to stop doing this because, I mean, it's just too much of code for me to assimilate.
Okay,
I
we have about 5 minutes left, but if you want to stop early, we can.
Yeah, I think I would. But you get the like, I guess if I spend time, look at the Python syntax, and I will be able to translate it. But it's going to take me a while. Yeah.
Hmm. Okay, so why don't we stop it there? Let me send you the link to the survey, which is actually the same link as what we used before. Did the survey link come through? Oh, okay, yeah. Okay, yeah, so again, your P22, this was the no AI condition with the try. All right, so we have one more survey for you that asks you to compare your experience on both tasks. So I just sent you the link to that. All right, you're done.
Thank you. It was
Thank you.
great.
Thank you. I hope you had fun. I know it was a little bit of a struggle, but
No, it was fun because I got to see the direction in which you all are thinking and evaluating your AI support capabilities. So,
Mhm. Yeah, so if you have a little bit more time, I'd like to tell you, a bit more about what we're doing and what we're studying.
sure. I
Okay.
can spend another 5 minutes if that's okay.
Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah, I can squeeze it into 5 minutes. So what we're doing is there's like a lot of AI systems that are being built to operate on code. And a lot of these systems are, it's a class of AI algorithms called generative AI. And so that's, models that produce code as an output. So these are things like translating code from one language to another, which is what you did in the study, or things like given code, produce documentation, or given some natural language snippet of like, here's the thing that I want to implement, produce code to implement it. And there's a lot of, technical work in the AI and machine learning communities to build these models, but there's not so much work to actually evaluate if these models are useful for kind of real world coding tasks. And so that's what we're trying to do, right? We're trying to put these models in the hands of people and see, is the output of the model actually helpful for someone, even if it's got kind of bugs and errors in it, or would people just like ignore what the model produced and just write the code themselves? And you can kind of see in this study,
Mhm.
right, is we're having one person do both tasks because we're kind of curious, like because you have the AI model, does that help you get more done in the task than when you didn't have the AI model? Um, so I'm not sure how you
Absolutely.
feel about that, but
No, so definitely, if I have the AI model, I can get more done.
Mhm.
As you can see, I was able to straight away get to the testing part. In the first example, I felt I'm comfortable
Yeah,
enough to say, hey, I have this code, now I want to test it. So that's definitely helpful. Um, yeah, I guess I also
yeah,
come with a certain bias that the more complex the code, or the more
but
difficult. Oops, there's some cost.
yeah,
Yep,
I also think it's really interesting in your case, right? Because you're sort of familiar with Python, but it's not your strongest language. But I think even with the
correct,
AI, it's
correct.
like it was enough to get you started, right? It was like that template that you did
So
for
it
the
definitely helped me. Yeah,
yeah. Yeah, so that's kind of what we're studying. And I guess if it's okay, I think I would like to follow up with
correct.
you in the future because the example you talked about with porting UI code, we're also just looking for more examples of like within IBM, people have gone through this kind of
Yeah, it
code
was
translation
definitely
task or
helpful. I think
application
as a
parts.
developer, I would definitely appreciate something like this.
Yeah, and so yeah, we would love to learn about your experience. So if you're okay, I'll have maybe someone on my team reach out to you to set up another session just to discuss more about, what happened in that project and maybe a little more brainstorming about like how AI technologies might have helped make that go easier. Would that be all right?
Sure, sure. Even right now, right as we speak, my product. Yes, that'll be fine. That'll be fine.
Okay, excellent. Well, thank you so much for sticking with it. And I also mentioned that I will send you some blue points as a thank you for your time. So thank you. All right, so I'll talk to you later. Thanks, Vanita. Oh. Okay. I don't know if you're able to hear
Yeah,
me. You can hear me
yeah.
now?
No, I had a yes, now I can. Actually, I think the problem's on my side. I've suddenly run into a spotty network connection.
Okay.
So I disconnected from my IBM network and it seems to be better.
Oh, okay.
So, yep, thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll say
Yeah.
thank you again. I'm gonna send you some blue points
Yeah.
and we'll be in
And I
touch.
heard
But
the Blue Points part, so thank
okay,
you very
okay,
much for that.
great. Thank you so much, Anita.
Bye.
Bye bye.